this turned on?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I can't see anybody. So this is a story. I look at myself as pretty physically strong. I mean, it's one of the ways, like, I've been talking about identity with my students, and I never really thought about size being part of my identity, but it definitely is. And like, I like to work out and stuff. But this is a story about why my wife is 100 times physically stronger than me. So most of the time when you think about pain, or people describe pain, two of the experiences that they talk about are root canals and labor, right? And my wife had both of those things on the same day. And that's what this story is about. And I want to talk a little bit, there's some mansplaining in the story, but I'm not, right? Because I've never had birth, and I think I know a lot about it, and so I talk to my wife in a way that is not really that cool, so just forgive me. She's out there, she's forgiven me, so you can too, okay? You know, I will never know how painful it is to have birth, but I'm telling it from my perspective. So, with each one of my kids, my wife never had morning sickness. She got a little tired in the first trimester, and almost to the day, on her 35th week, she was like, I don't really mind being pregnant. This isn't that bad. I'm not really ready to have the baby. And then by 38 weeks, she was like, get it out of me. Like, this hurts. And her body starts telling her that everything hurts, right? And it gets to a point where, like, even when I'm getting into bed with her, I'm like trying to, you know, like give her a little hug, but she has so many pillows wedged between her legs, under her ass, around her hips, under her armpits, that like I'm looking for flesh and all I feel is puffy cloth, right? And then the minute I touch her, she goes, ow! Like, that hurts. Okay, all right, so I don't touch her at all, and good night, honey, right? And that's kind of how it's going. So one night, with our second child, and the weird thing about having kids, and I don't know if anybody else has this experience, but I totally do, and that is that I thought the second kid, everything was going to go just like the first kid, right? Like, oh, you'll get induced, and then you'll have your epidural, and then the baby will be born at 3, just like the last one, like in my head, because that's our only experience. So I come into bed, I just brush my teeth, and my wife Sarah says, my face hurts. And I'm like, yeah, the baby's gonna come soon. Everything hurts. You're fine. I mean, the only thing that's gonna help that is the baby coming, and it's any time, honey. And she's like, it really hurts. I'm like, yeah, just go to bed. Everything's gonna be fine. I'm a jerk, I know. And so I go to bed, and about 2 in the morning, she smacks me, and she's like, my face feels like it's on fire, and it's hurting all the way up to my eye, and I think it's a tooth. So I called the dentist, and there's an emergency line, and he calls me back, and I said, look, my wife's 39 weeks pregnant. She thinks she has a toothache. Is there anything we can... She thinks she does. I told you, forgive me. I'm being honest. I'm just being honest, right? She thinks she has a toothache, right? Sorry. I'm not pulling, I'm just being the asshole that is me, right? The guy goes, yeah, I can give her some, whatever. So they give her a prescription for Percocet or whatever. I roll all the way down to Walgreens, drive through, getting Percocet, just like everybody else wanted to do, through the drive-through at Walgreens. At 2 in the morning, everybody's like, you got a script for Percocet? So I pick it up, and I bring it back, and she takes a couple, and in my mind, I'm like, that'll do it. There's no more pain to be had. She's just going to go to sleep. So 6 in the morning, she's only slept 3 hours. She's like, I'm contracting a little bit. And I'm like, oh, you're fine. No, this is me, mansplaining, right? Braxton Hicks. That's what I said to her. This is Braxton Hicks. It's not a big deal. And she's like, oh, like, she doesn't know her body, I do, right? So we have an appointment with the dentist. I'm a school teacher, so I had the day off anyway. I was going to go to some reimagining schools of the 21st century, how to make the best standardized test or something. And so I had the day off. I had already done sub plans, and so I was like, well, I'll just skip and we'll go to the dentist. But we called the OBGYN, and the nurse was like, yeah, you know what? It's probably just the trauma from the pain. And it doesn't sound like they're coming in intervals, they're kind of sporadic, no big deal, right? So we're like, okay. So we go down to the dentist, and sure enough, she had a crown put on, and they took it off, and it was just like nasty, right? And it was bad. And she starts to contract on a little bit more regular intervals now, right? And we're like, And so like, why don't we put you in a wheelchair? You're probably in early labor. And my wife, amazingly strong, right? So they put her in this wheelchair. And the woman who's working at the front, she's dressed up. She's got like some nice slacks on and like some high heels. And she's in her office attire. And we're on the side of a hill. And she's trying to walk my wife out the building, down and across the street. And I'm sitting there just being an asshole, just like, hey, so how long have you been working at the dentist office? It's February, and it's really nice out. And all of a sudden I get this reach over, and it's my wife, and she's contracting the whole time, first of all, not even paying attention to that. And she grabs my leg, and she goes, you need to hold on to the wheelchair. And I look over at the lady, and sure enough, I mean, my wife's 9 months pregnant. The lady's like doing this down the hill, right? And she's got like high heels on, and I'm like, oh, let me take it. And my wife's like, she's smiling at me like this. Like, so and the whole time, like periodically, she's grabbing onto the wheelchair. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So we get her into the endodontist, and the endodontist is really funny. He's like, well, I have 7 kids. So I know all about this, no problem. Another mansplainer, right? He's like, oh, we'll take care of this. It was really nice. They get her in the chair, they put the dental dam in, and then every time she contracts, she squeezes the lady who's helping, and all the tools come out of her mouth. So it's like, and everybody just pauses, and she's like, oh! And then back to it, right? And they get back in there, and they're digging it out. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just I don't know, like I feel totally like I can't help, so I'm just like, and the lady's like, here's a prescription, like you could go get the antibiotics, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go get the antibiotics. So I walk down this like, I don't know, Good Neighbor Pharmacy, one of those little tiny ones, and it's one of those places like I would never go to. But pharmacies are interesting to me because there's all kinds of weird shaped foam accessories and like weird things for your feet and braces, and I'm just kind of, and like weird stuff for toe fungus. I'm just like reading it and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna kill some time, not thinking about my wife contracting really. And I finally get the antibiotics and I walk up and they're just finishing, and Sarah gets out of her seat and then holds on to the dentist chair and she's like, again, and I'm like, so should we go home and get the bag that we packed? And she's like, no, you need to take me straight to the hospital. And I'm still, in my mind, thinking of the first child. I'm like, we've got hours. Now, so the first one, just as a quick, just so you can get where my head is at, she had to be induced. Her water broke, but she had to be induced. She didn't go into labor, and it took a long time. She got an epidural, and my wife, I mean this in the most loving sense, she's like a baby cannon. It was like 4 or 5 pushes with the first one, and it was like, whoosh, like Nolan Ryan into the mitt, right? Amazing, really amazing. Like, I am like, and again, so I'm like, so in my mind, that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna get to the hospital and they're like, you got hours, honey, here's some ice chips, and just hang out, and you're gonna be fine, and everything will work out. So that's my mind. And Sarah's like, no, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel right. And I'm like, well, your water hasn't even broken. And she's like, yeah. So she's going through the motions the whole way up to St. Vincent Hospital, and I pull into the emergency room, and the guy and I get out of my car, and I'm like, can you get like a wheelchair to take my wife up? And he's like, well, you're parked in the ambulance place, so can you move around? And my wife doesn't swear. She doesn't. I swear all the time. She doesn't swear, and she's like, fuck that, give me your chair now! Like crazy. And the guy's like, okay, like, I'll give you a chair. So they get her a chair and they wheel her up, and I go park and I come up, and sure enough, and those of you, I'm gonna explain to you something real quick. She was 10 centimeters dilated and fully effaced. She was ready to push. Okay, so she was ready to push. Well, the issue was that Sarah had tested. She had strep B. Now, strep B doesn't hurt women at all, but it can hurt the baby as it's coming out. And so what they like to do is put you in a little IV drip with some antibiotics that gets into the baby's system in case they get exposed to it. So they're like, well, we kind of really wanted to put you on this IV, but literally, when they put her up in the stirrups, it's like you could see a baby almost there. Like, it was close. And Sarah goes, well, I'm not waiting unless I get an epidural, right? And you can't really blame her. And so I can't. I really have no place to say anything. So she goes, well, I don't have epidural. And I'm like, well, it's kind of late, honey. And she's like, well, I'm not going to sit here for 4 hours. Like it feels like I really have to take a giant poop right now, and you need to give me this. So we're sitting there, and this guy comes in, and he's the anesthesiologist who I have a real grudge for my first kid. Same guy. He comes in with headphones on, he's like, everything's going to be just fine. And you put this epidural in your back, you're not going to feel a thing, it's going to be smooth sailing. He's got like some, I'm going to play a little Miles Davis. Right? Well, our first child, a baby's heart rate's like 160 or something. Our first child, when he gave the epidural, it dropped to 70, and it was my first child, and I was ready to fight. Like, I had my hands like this, right? So he comes and gives the epidural, and Sarah sits in stirrups with the baby right there, okay? And she gets the epidural, and she's like, oh, honey, can you go to the car and get my makeup bag? Really? She's like, yeah, remember last time when the baby was born and my eyes looked horrible because I've been laboring all day, and I just want, your mom's going to take like 100 pictures when she gets here, so make sure you have the makeup bag. So I was like, okay, so I get the makeup bag, and she's sitting there like this, just like, holy, like, no big deal, right? Just face done. I was like, oh, honey, you look beautiful. She's got all her makeup on. So our obstetrician, the actual one, is there, and she's great. And we're sitting there and we're waiting, and it's a little graphic, but we look down there and there's a bubble, like it's the placenta filled with water just sitting there, and we're like, oh, it's time to push, right? Like she's like, okay, we're gonna give it a shot. Sarah pushes like twice, and the baby's out, okay? And I'm just totally amazed. And I will admit that I hold my wife's like leg up by her ear with her mother. We're both, it's kind of weird doing that, like holding up her wife's leg, looking across with like a crowning head and a vagina, going like this and going, push, watching it. And the baby pops out, and I feel like I just had this like team moment with her mom. And the baby comes out, and Caledonia is born, and she's out, and she lays on top of my wife, and she takes right to the breast. And both of my children, the first thing they did was poop all over Sarah, and she kept the tradition. And so there's meconium, like that sticky, tarry stuff that comes out of newborn babies' butts, all over her. But it was such a beautiful thing, and it just made me. It was, and it made me think that as strong as I think I am, I could never do that. And I love my children so much, but I love my wife to a point where I can't believe the pain that she went through. Like for me, having a kid is 3 minutes, and for her it's 9 months, and she did it with such a grace. And she went through all that pain, and I would have complained and whined and probably moaned. And so now anytime she complains about pain, I believe her. And love you, Sarah.